Does it? Great.
Okay, dzień dobry everyone. Thank you so much for coming this morning. I'm sorry that I will run out of Polish words before I can finish the presentation, so I will have to do this in English. There we go, perfect. So if you are on Twitter, then I hope you're taking part in the tweet contest and using the MCE conf hashtag. Feel free to tweet about this session. I love coming here to Poland. My ex-wife was from the south, so I spent much more time down near Kraków and Bielsko. This is, I think, only my second or third time in Warsaw, so it's a fun place. I'm a developer advocate at Twitter, which means that I spend a lot of time working with our partners who are using our API and our platform. And of course, people like you, people who are building mobile apps and looking for the best ways to do that. So Twitter itself was actually born on mobile. The reason that a tweet is 140 characters, if you don't know this, is that it needed to fit inside an SMS, which is 160 characters, and then have a little space for commands, like sending a direct message. So we've always been a mobile platform and a mobile app. Obviously, smartphone platforms have evolved since we launched back in 2006, 2007. But we started as this SMS-based product. And Twitter's evolved, so we now have this very nice, rich mobile client. Last week we launched some new features, like you can now post video natively, you can do group direct messaging. And of course, as well as Twitter, we also have a wonderful product called Vine, which some of you may be familiar with. So we've got two very popular mobile apps. And it's very important for us to make sure that our apps are stable and solid, and our customers and our users have a good experience. So we're here at MCE Conf talking about, mobile with a human touch, and that's all about making users happy, making sure that users have a great experience. How many times have you heard from a friend, hey, Mariusz, you must try this new app, it's amazing, and you download it, and you press to launch it, and it crashes straight away, and you think, well, that's weird, that's annoying, and you launch it again, and it crashes again, and you don't have time for this, you're a busy person, you just delete it, you're not going to go back and look at that app again. So it's really important when engaging users and people, humans, to make sure your app is a solid app. So we recognize that there are a lot of challenges that mobile developers face, and you can see some of them on this slide. And we decided that when we were building our Fabric platform, we wanted to focus on just a few of these to start off with. So here are a few of the themes we're going to be looking at this morning. We're going to look at stability, how to make apps solid, how to distribute, how to make money, because that's usually important as well. I know from working with developers in lots of communities, my background is open source in particular, excuse me, that making money sometimes, or advertising, is sometimes kind of a dirty thing. But ultimately, if you spent time making an app, you spent time developing some code, you'd like to probably be rewarded for that. And finally, I've got something very exciting to talk to you about around identity. So with Fabric, we do all of these things through a series of kits. So Fabric is an SDK, but it's modular. So we don't say, download this thing and install it into your app and have this 50 megabyte framework sitting in the background. You choose the things you want. If you're not interested in revenue and identity, you're only interested in stability, you just use the Crashlytics kit that's represented on the left-hand side there. We have a Twitter kit, and we have another kit called Mopub. So this is actually our sample app. It's called Cannonball. You can find it in the App Store and in the Play Store. It's written on both Android and iOS. And you can download the source code on our Twitter Dev GitHub organization. It's a magnetic poetry game. So like I said, you're having some fun, you're trying it out, and then suddenly it just crashes on you, and you're back to the home screen. And you're kind of like, well, that's not fun. Or you've written a mobile game for kids, and you get an angry email from a parent because a child is upset because he or she can't make it to the next level of the game because of something crashing in the game. So let's start by looking at where we started, which is stability. And we know that the issue of stability is one of the core things that leads to those 1- or 2-star App Store reviews. Your entire business is based on those reviews because it's how you drive popularity. This is a real screenshot. There's one here. This guy wants to, oh, there we go. This guy wants to kind of give people negative stars in the App Store. So Jeff Seibert and Wayne Chang set up a company back in 2011 called Crashlytics. Some of you may have heard of Crashlytics. Some of you may be using it already. Twitter acquired Crashlytics. We were using it. We were using it so much in our own apps, we thought, you know, this is cool technology. These guys know their stuff. And, you know, here's a default iOS crash report from one of our builds of the Twitter app. Really obvious to see where the problem is right here, right? You guys are looking at this and you're like, I'm right in there. So actually, you know, in fact, if we scroll down, we can find that here's the problem. Wouldn't it be much nicer if instead of this weird crash report with all these symbols and so on, we actually had in a few seconds the file name and the line of code where our app had crashed? And that's exactly what Crashlytics can provide us. So it will tell us exactly where our code has crashed. And we're getting that in real time back from users as or devices as the code crashes on iOS and Android into a single dashboard. It's really, really cool stuff. I know exactly where I need to go to fix this code. In fact, I know which version of the app I've been using and how many times, how many people this has affected as well. So that's Crashlytics. It's built for iOS and Android, and you just need to add a single line of code to your app to include this SDK and this framework into your app. And you're going to get some really nice statistics and graphs that show you exactly what this is looking like. In fact, you're even going to find out, and we know from experience, that this isn't just an Android problem where the devices are so different now. We've got a range now of iOS devices of different sizes and capabilities we need to pay attention to as well. And of course, from a developer's perspective, you're also going to get that full stack trace. We're not taking that away from you. We're just trying to make things really easy. Turns out this is really popular. I mean, we've been out in the wild since 2011. We actually launched Fabric, Twitter launched Fabric in October at our developer conference in San Francisco. I'm really excited that this today is the first opportunity that I've had, or we've had, to stand on stage here in Europe and talk about Fabric. So you guys are getting a bit of a taste of what we talked about over there in October. But crashes aren't the most important thing. Obviously, they're key. But if we can't develop our code and test our code and have people try out our code, then we're not getting early feedback. So last year in May, before we launched Fabric, but through the life cycle of Crashlytics, we launched Beta. Now, if you've used TestFlight or you've used the Google App Store, Play Store beta testing, you'll be familiar with the idea of distributing test code to testers. But you will also know that you can't just phone up your mum or your grandfather and say, hey, I've just built this new app. I want to send you a test copy. Oh, by the way, what's your Apple ID? Can you send me your device identifier? I'll sign a copy for you and send you a special build. It's kind of a crap experience. So with Beta, what we do is we have this beautiful themed to your app email that we can send out, really making sure the app is front and center. It's white labeled. It doesn't say, you know, Twitter or Crashlytics all over it. It's a beta distribution for your app. And again, it integrates with that crash dashboard, and it works across iOS and Android. So you've got a full product lifecycle there. You can start to get crash reports back in from your beta apps and easily invite people. And it's themed, so we can see, you know, different colored backgrounds, different colored apps. It looks really nice. We're going to get the information back in about which users are using particular types, particular versions of apps, how many times they've encountered crashes, and it's all going to be integrated into that single dashboard. It's really easy to have groups of testers. Say some people are like me, they're early adopters. They're kind of geeky and like to try out really early versions. So you might want to send me like the alpha builds ahead of the beta builds. And we're also able to do this just through share links. So we can just really fast email out links to people so that they can just come and get hold of a build. So Crashlytics and Beta are core to our stability story as part of Fabric. And I mentioned this is all modular. So if you're just interested in Crashlytics, you can go download Fabric today and just use the Crashlytics kit without using any of the other stuff that I'm going to talk about. You've got a really nice, solid build now. You're winning the war against bugs. Let's move on and talk about how we get our app out there, how we grow our app, how we get a bigger audience. Distribution. How do we get people engaged? And we believe that if your apps have a solid stream, a constant stream of enticing content, then that's one way to build that audience. Now, it turns out that Twitter today has over 1 billion tweets sent every 2 days. People are talking on Twitter all the time. And whether or not you're a user of Twitter, whether you're signed up, whether you're posting tweets yourself, there's relevant content out there about things you're interested in, whether that's the traffic situation in Warsaw, whether that's the crime situation in London, whether that's the restaurants that your friends are visiting and enjoying. Lots of interesting content. And with videos and photos, there's a lot of very rich content as well that you can pull into your apps really easily. But actually, in the past, it's been really difficult to do this kind of thing and have tweets displayed inside an app. We've had an API for a long time. I'm on the platform relations team. This is one of the things that I care deeply about, our API. And in order to display tweets like this, we've asked you to follow display guidelines. We've asked you to have a Twitter logo, have the user's avatar. You've had to make all of those calls yourself and build these views yourself. And for a mobile developer, again, you don't have time for that. You just want to be able to make a few quick calls to the SDK you're using and have that stuff pulled in. And last year, I was working with a partner in London. They're a restaurant review app. And they built all of this themselves. They built their whole framework for displaying tweets themselves. They told me it took them 2 months to get it right, to follow the guidelines. We really want to make that much easier. So we built something called TwitterKit as part of Fabric, which lets you, within a few lines of code, embed tweets inside your app. And of course, if you don't want to be on a white background, you've got a different theme for your app, you can change that. That's really easy. If we, in the future ourselves, decide to change the format of a tweet, then that will be reflected inside your app. We can pull in, obviously, photos and rich media as well into your tweets. And it's just so simple to actually do this, both, again, on Android and iOS. This is mostly showing you Swift examples, but it works equally well on Java on Android. What about if you are a Twitter user and you want to be able to tweet from inside your app? You don't want to have to go out to the Twitter app to say, hey, look at this cool thing I've just found. So we've built a tweet composer, which works again on iOS and Android. And some of you who are iOS users will be saying, well, hey, actually, we've had this for a while. We've had inside iOS some methods to help us tweet and log in. But that hasn't been equal across both iOS and Android, and that's something we've brought to both platforms now. So we can share content, we can get content into our apps. And if you think about a mobile app, I launch a mobile app to do one specific thing. So in London, there's a very popular travel app called Citymapper, which I love using. It's the easiest way. If you come to London, you need to get from A to B. You're traveling somewhere, it's super easy. But once I've done that, once I've plotted a route and I've decided how I'm going to go to the cinema or wherever I'm going, I don't really want to go out to Twitter to check the conditions of the travel network. So Citymapper are now using Fabric to pull that data, that information, right into their app. You don't have to lose your users out to another app where, if you're anything like me, as soon as you change to another app, you're distracted. You're going to start playing around doing something new. We've all been there, right? The other piece of TwitterKit is the ability to sign in with Twitter, and we're going to talk more about identity. But important thing here is that again, on Android, you've not had this ability before. If you wanted to have your users sign in with Twitter on Android, you've had to go out through a fairly nasty web-based flow, which goes through our mobile website. We've made this into a really simple way of doing this now on Android. And for the first time, if you've ever used Twitter login before in an app, you'll know that up until recently, and in fact, you may not even be aware that we've changed this, you haven't been able to get the user's email address. So what we've now done is made it possible, if you're using Fabric, for trusted developers who use Fabric to request the user's email address. The user will be prompted, so you won't necessarily get it if they decide not to give it to you, but you can ask for that permission now, which we think makes signing with Twitter much more interesting. And finally, you don't have to log into Twitter at all. We've got this thing called guest authentication. So you don't want to have your users log into Twitter straight away to do something. So we can start to do things against the Twitter API using guest authentication. The other important thing, once we've started to grow our user base by sharing content or bringing in content, is tracking how that growth is occurring. So back in July, we launched this really simple, zero configuration, mobile tracking and analytics called Answers. And since then, it's grown amazingly. We've had lots of people using Answers, and every time a user opens or closes an app, puts it into the background, changes screen, we're going to get some information. So what does Answers look like? Well, we get at a glance on our dashboard, again integrated with all of those other things like crash reporting in beta, this wonderful chart which shows us straight away how many daily active, monthly active users we've got. And we can also start to find out what's happening. So in this case, we've got there we go, nasty looking crash. So suddenly we've had this lovely growth, everybody's been happy, and then suddenly the stability has plummeted and people have started to stop using the app. So we can immediately then drill into the crash reports and find out that we've actually got a new crash that didn't exist with the previous version that we need to go fix immediately because it's impacting our users, impacting their happiness. And we don't even make you go and look at a website every day. We send you a daily email that immediately gives you a summary, just a little snippet to tell you how you're doing. It's kind of the too long didn't read kind of summary view of how your app growth is going. So that's distribution. That's how we believe that we can help you with our SDK to grow your audience and actually then track and keep up with that audience. So you've made this app. How are you going to make some money from it? Well, Twitter also, as well as acquiring Crashlytics, acquired a company called MoPub. And MoPub is an advertising platform. You may be familiar with others. MoPub's got some really cool things. So first of all, we provide the ability to go directly to advertisers. You can also tap into ad networks. When I say that, that includes many of them, so iAd, AdMob, Facebook, any of those platforms you can actually tap into and do business with. And we also have a MoPub marketplace that lets advertisers themselves compete for your business, compete for you to put their ad into your app. Lots and lots of requests. It's really popular SDK as well. Again, if this is the only thing you're interested in, then you can absolutely go get MoPub from Fabric on its own and not worry about the crash reporting because you've got that from somewhere else. So it's got some really nice formats. So as well as banners, you've all seen these, and I kind of think the banners are a bit janky. They kind of ruin the experience. How much space am I going to give over at the bottom of my beautiful app screen to a banner? We've also got full screen ads. We've got video ads. But the really interesting thing, I believe, about MoPub is that we offer something called native ads. What's a native ad? Well, a native ad is where the API gives you all the pieces, so the copy, the image, the link, and then you're allowed to style and theme that along with your app. So instead of your users having this experience where they're scrolling through or playing a game and then suddenly this pop-up, you can have something that's much more in keeping and much more stylish, but looks beautiful and feels like part of your app. So we really try to put you in control with that view. And if you actually download our Cannonball app, you can actually see some ads in there which are themed in the style of the app itself. So, stable app, distribution, growing it, working out how many users are using it, and then some revenue. Now, identity, well, I already talked about sign in with Twitter, right? Now, many developers today are building login systems, and we're still basing that on email and password. And then, of course, we realize that there's so many things we have to log into that we're just going to keep using the same password. And then, you know, your favorite website gets hacked and your favorite password is out in the wild and you have to change all your passwords. Kind of sucks, right? We're still using email and password today. And then along came social login. But like this chart shows, which one are you going to choose? I mean, if you're like me, you've got accounts with all of those 6 different networks. Which one are you going to log in with on this app? And then once you've done that one time, how are you going to remember which one of those 6 you chose to create your account? And then, by the way, if I log in with Google or Twitter or Facebook, what are those social networks sharing with the app developer? How much information are they giving them? So we know that users increasingly don't like this either. You know, this whole idea of sign-in with a social profile is kind of boring now. You know what everybody has? You've got a mobile phone in your pocket, you've got a phone number, right? So Twitter started as an SMS provider, and we are one of the largest senders of SMS on the planet already. People still get their DMs via SMS if they want to in some parts of the world. What we chose to do back in October when we launched Fabric was we decided to open up that infrastructure for sending SMS to everyone for free. And we launched something called Digits. Digits is a brand new product from Twitter. It's not Twitter, it's part of our Fabric SDK. It's a new set of APIs for you to do white-labeled phone number-based sign-in for free. Let's have a look at what this looks like. So we've put a button in here ourselves, but you can use your own. So we click on Register with Mobile. We type in our phone number. Excuse me that this is a United States example. We're going to get back an SMS with a confirmation code. There we go. We type in the confirmation code, and bam, we're done. Now, if you've used something like WhatsApp or Snapchat, then you've seen this, okay? You've seen something similar. If you were to go and build this yourself, you'd have to do deals with all of those mobile providers around the world where your new users are. So we wanted to make this really, really simple. And let me show you how simple that is. It's that simple, okay? Like 4 lines of code, and you've got your phone number-based sign-in. We don't want to like plaster Twitter all over this and make everybody know that you're using our SDK. We are making it themable. So depending on which what your app is, what your color scheme is, who you are, what your general look and feel is, you can make this fit in with your app completely. But now you're thinking, hold on, so Andy, you've just told us that we can do this phone number-based sign-in. How does that work if I want to bring my users to my website? Well, you're in luck, because in December, we launched Digits for the web. So you can now log into websites using this same method. It's a JavaScript SDK, part of Fabric, that can be embedded into a website. And as long as you've got your mobile device with you to do that confirmation code exchange, you can log in to websites using Digits as well. So we think this is really, really cool and exciting. So that's Digits. It's available on iOS, Android, and the web. And you're global from the start, because Twitter itself is in a stupid number of countries. I mean, I say stupid. I'm excited by how many countries we're in. We're here to connect everybody on the planet, give everybody a voice, give everybody that ability to tweet if they want to. We launched Digits on in all of those countries where we already had Twitter phone service, and in all these different languages localized. And as I think I mentioned a few times, it's free. So that's Digits, that's identity. I've just described 7 different sets of functionality to you, and we are not just going to throw all that at you and make you use 7 different SDKs. We put together some really simple bedtime reading for you. It will take you no time at all to look at this. Again, just kidding. We've combined all of this into this thing called Fabric. So if you go to get.fabric.io today, you can sign up and get the Fabric SDK. You get a really nice helper plugin for your favorite IDE, Xcode or Eclipse or IntelliJ, Android Studio. It will help you walk you through the steps if you need them. Of course, you can also use it through your existing build chain as well. We wanted to make this really simple and lightweight as well. So on Android in particular, if you've been developing there a long time, you'll be familiar with the Dolvik method limit and things like that. We've tried to make this as lightweight and as small as possible and modular. So if you download Fabric and you want to use some of the function in your app, we're not going to pull in Mopub if you don't need it. We're not going to pull in Crashlytics if you don't need it. You're just going to have the pieces you need. You're not going to blow every single one of your mobile apps by 50 megabytes. It's really easy just to pick the pieces you need. So we tied all of these SDKs together. You can see that the Crashlytics kit contains answers and beta. The Twitter kit also contains digits. That's just the way that we've structured this. But we have these 3 kits. Crashlytics and the Twitter kit are free. We like to say that the Mopub kit is free plus because you can actually make some money from it. Inside your IDE, it looks a little bit like this. If you want to use our plugins for managing this, you can pick and choose the pieces you're going to be including. If you've developed for Twitter before, then you don't actually need to go and deal with all those consumer API keys anymore. The plugin will do all of that for you. We've also provided nice drag and drop integration on Xcode. And on Android, we actually go and parse all of your source code and tell you the places where you might need to make some changes and integrate. And basically, we show you a diff that shows you what we're going to change, and you can cut and paste or run the diff yourself. So the sample app Cannonball is available in the App Store and the Play Store today. It's also all available in source code format. And we're also right now on the road. I'm here in Warsaw. My colleagues right now are literally on a tour bus driving across the US, meeting different groups, talking about this stuff. We're going to be in London and in Berlin in the next couple of weeks. We're going to be doing half-day deep dives on all of these things. If you wanted to really learn a lot more about the coding side of this, then you can meet us in those cities. Like I said, we actually have a tour bus. It's crazy. I'm so jealous I didn't get to go on this tour. So London's February the 19th and Berlin is February the 26th. One other thing that we announced recently is a contest called Hatch. So if you're working at a startup and your startup has taken less than $2 million in funding and is making less than 10 million in revenue, there's some rules, then you can apply to take part in this startup contest. There's quite a lot of money available as a prize. There's a bunch of other prizes as well. Go check this out at hatch.io and take a look. The requirements are basically that you're using some part of the Twitter API or the Fabric SDK. So I encourage you to have a look at Fabric. Come and talk to me if you would like some more information. Coming back to the theme of the conference, we really want to make the world a lot better for users of mobile apps and for developers of mobile apps. So mobile with a human touch, like I said, we want to make sure that we've got users, that the app is stable. We're making it as easy as possible for you as developers to get on and build the cool algorithms and tools that you want to build without having to worry about the basic stuff like stability, for example. And we want to make sure that those users have a great experience, that they're not like taken out of your app because there's a janky looking advert or they need to go and check something else. We want to make sure that that mobile experience for users is as smooth as possible. So with that, I've got plenty of time to take some questions. Thank you.
Let's summarize. You've introduced the platform that helps the developers to develop easier integration with Twitter.
I would say that there are some features in Fabric which make it easier to integrate with Twitter.
Okay.
But if you look at that, that's really less than a third of the platform. So we've got a platform here which we think makes it really easy to build great-looking, stable apps. Part of that could be the use of the Twitter APIs and pulling in tweets if that's what you want. If that is not relevant to your app, then there's no need for it. Okay. The other really cool thing I want to mention again is digits. I think that what we've done with digits, opening up Twitter's SMS infrastructure to all developers, making it really easy to do phone number-based sign-in, I think that's really exciting. And again, that's not telling you all to sign up for Twitter. I'm not here to do that. It's a really cool new feature for mobile app developers.
Okay, if anybody has to remember one thing from your presentation, what it would be?
I think it would be that Twitter's SDK is not all about Twitter. Okay. We've got some really popular mobile apps. We've had to solve many of the challenges I've talked about today, and we'd like to help you do the same.
Okay, great. So Andy is ready for questions. Okay.
Actually, I have two questions.
Okay.
You develop a lot of nice software, and you give it for free. I suppose you are mostly founded by Twitter, but at some point you will have to be maybe profitable. I wanted to ask you, what is your business model? Where are you going to get money from it?
So Fabric is a product from Twitter. So Twitter already has a business model and makes money. We're sharing our platform. And I don't think that's any different in many ways than, say, Amazon or Google sharing their platform, right? So Amazon built an amazing store which makes it easy for people to get stuff super quickly, and then they created Amazon Web Services that is based on the same technology that they built the store on. Similar with Google's cloud platform. So Twitter's already got a model for doing that. If you're looking at Fabric individually, MoPub has an advertising exchange network there. So that's where advertisers will themselves compete for your business as a mobile developer to get their ads into your apps. So we have ways of monetizing those things. Beyond that, like I said, we are just sharing the platform, and we're sharing the expertise we had when we built Twitter and Vine and other mobile apps.
Okay. And the second question is there any limitation of active users? If, for example, can I use those tools, Crashlytics, with an app used, for example, by 1 million users?
Yes, absolutely. Again, our own apps are used Crashlytics and have many hundreds of thousands, millions of users. There aren't any limitations on those things. Excuse me.
Sorry. What about tweet limits? Is there any quota on loading tweets?
Is there any quota on loading tweets, did you say? The Twitter platform has some rate limits in place. I wouldn't expect them to be a big problem, because if you're just displaying a timeline or a small number of tweets at a time inside an app, then you're unlikely to hit those limits. But those limits are documented on our developer website. And to be clear, the limits that we have on our API are to make the platform stable for everyone, right? So if you've been a long-time user of Twitter, I've been using it since 2007, you remember the fail whale, you don't see that anymore. You know, we try not to crash now. Sometimes, you know, I can't say we never do, but we've tried to even it out so that everybody gets a fair use of the platform. That's why we have those API limits.
I have a question.
Where are you? Sorry.
Here.
Oh, sorry, the light is very bright.
When are you planning to release an API for Crashlytics? And if you are, when can we expect that?
That's a great question. Are we going to bring out an API for Crashlytics, and when to expect it? I don't have an answer. I'm really sorry. I would love to be able to tell you yes, and we'll do that tomorrow. or next week. I don't know right now. We have a developer community, which is at twittercommunity.com. We make announcements there. We also have a Twitter handle, Twitter API, and we also have Crashlytics handle. So if we plan to do those things, then we would announce it there. But unfortunately, I don't have any news on that today. When you say an API for Crashlytics, do you mean for pulling the crash reports into your own apps? Yeah. So I don't know exactly what the plans would be.
And I have a question also about Crashlytics.
Okay.
Is there a way to migrate current application from Crashlytics to Fabric?
Yes. So if you're already using Crashlytics, then you can upgrade to the Fabric version, and that will give you then the ability to add in those other kits if you want to. Yes, there's a website link. I don't remember it. I will. We can talk after, and I can send you the link for that.
Hi. You were saying that you have Digit's JavaScript SDK.
Yes.
Are there any fallbacks on using it on mobile, like on WebView or on native packed with WebView?
So that's a great question as well. So the JavaScript SDK is intended for like desktop web really, rather than mobile web. On the mobile, we would hope, if you're able to, that you would be using the SDK version. I don't know is the short answer. If there are limitations in mobile browsers, I think that now that most of the modern mobile browsers are, fairly solid on JavaScript, that there wouldn't be a problem. But I personally haven't tried it, so I don't want to say it's fine. We would have to talk about that some more.
Okay, 2 more questions.
So 2 questions.
He's taken both.
Do you have any plans for a Windows Phone or even BlackBerry as the case, or do you plan staying just iOS and Android?
Yeah, so I myself have a Windows mobile device as well as an Android and an iPhone. So we don't have plans right now. We are continuing to watch the popularity of different platforms. Right now, iOS and Android are clearly the leading ones in mobile, and that's why we're on those. But I don't have anything to tell you today about those other platforms.
And is there a strong reason to migrate to Fabric if you're already using similar services like Bugsense or Splunk Mint? Or
Is there any reason to move to Fabric if you're already using similar services? Well, one of the most popular audio apps based in Berlin recently moved from another crash reporting tool to Crashlytics, and they told me themselves that they get much better detail from Crashlytics than they did from Hockey app. But honestly, I would look at it from a package perspective. So if you're using these things, they work together. It's optional the things you use. So if you are using Hockey or Splunk or whatever you're using for crash reporting, then you can continue to use that and still use, if you want to, TwitterKit, for example. That's why we made it modular. We didn't want to force you to have all of this code that you don't need. I strongly believe that Crashlytics is a great platform. We've got beta as part of it, and we've got answers there as well. You, of course, should evaluate and decide. I read quite a nice blog post yesterday, I think I retweeted it, that does a comparison of several of the crash reporting tools. There are pros and cons. Some cover Windows as well, for example. Some have other features that we don't. So, have a look. I really think that Crashlytics is a great product.
Do you want one more question?
Sure, I'm happy to.
Okay, so let's make an exception.
Anyone
Anybody?
else?
Do you collect some additional statistic from Crashlytics using mobile application?
So, what kind of statistics?
For example, how user use application, not only crash statistic, but additional user.
Okay, so I think I understand. So there's 2 parts to the answer. First of all 3 of the kits have their own privacy policy, so they don't share user information. So if you're using Crashlytics kit and you're using the Twitter kit, we have different privacy policies for both of them and they don't share the same data. Secondly, with Crashlytics, you're getting on your dashboard anonymized information about crash reports. It will have, information about kind of device, memory available, that kind of information. And you get answers information. So that's, the mobile analytics about how a user is behaving when the app is put into the background and so on. If you're using beta as well, then it will be attached to a user. But otherwise, you're not necessarily getting that attached to users. We don't go like looking into other apps. We can't look into other apps. That's how mobile operating systems work with app development. Again, have a look at the kind of information you're getting on the dashboard, but we're not like, secretly harvesting additional data at all. Is that what the answer does that answer the question? Yeah, great.
Okay, thank you very much, Andy.
Okay, thank you.
Stick around for the next talk and have a great day. Bye.